What's up, everyone? I'm Ruthina Porterfield, and this is Liberated Conversations with Ruthina. Now, if you saw or watched or listened to our last episode, you know that we had a good conversation about our relationship with food, which can be a very complicated one. Well, we are going to actually continue that conversation. I hope you get a chance to listen to the last one because we're going to continue that conversation, but just from a different angle. We're going to be talking with Chef Ashley Shepard. She is the Amazon bestselling author of this book right here because I have it. It is the Daniel Fast 20 about this book, and we're going to be talking about spiritual fasting and our relationship with food, how it all connects and all the benefits that we can get from fasting and understanding that relationship, that complicated relationship, so much more. This is one you're going to learn a lot from, and you don't want to miss it. So join the conversation. Hello, Ashley. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for that warm welcome.
Oh, of course. You so deserve it. So deserve it. I have to say that I came across your book when I was searching for a new journal, but I think as we connected, we discovered even more about our connection, which is so cool. First of all, I want people to know, where are you coming from?
Well, I'm originally from Charleston, and after we talked a little bit, I found out you were too.
Yes.
Yes, so I'm based in Atlanta, but I was born and raised there. And so I think that's one of the things that, like you said, it was a connection point. I'm just like, oh, she's from Charleston too. Amazing.
Yes.
So,
I love God connections. I love God connections. Okay, so I want to jump right in. And the first thing I want to establish is why you wrote the book. Why, how did it come about? Where did the idea spark from? I want that to be clear.
okay. Well, the book actually started as an email challenge. And so I was walking outside the sanctuary at my church and here in Atlanta, and one of our ushers we were starting the Daniel fast. So our pastor said, all right, hey, here's the list of foods you can eat. We're gonna start tonight at 6 p.m. They had talked to us about it a little bit before. We did it every year. I hadn't done it previously. And so one of the ushers was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to eat. And so at that point, I was like, wait, I can help with
That's
that.
funny.
And so it just became a 21-day email challenge. And at that point, I was writing the emails the day before they were sent out. I don't recommend that because it was a lot of work. However, it became an experience where people were able to really focus on the fast instead of having to worry about what they were going to eat. So it included weekly meal plans. I would send those out at the beginning of the week, and they would have their grocery shopping list. And then each day of the challenge would be devotional. So I'd send out an email devotional, something that was applicable to their lives, of course, tie it to scripture, and then have them try to apply that in some way. So then towards the end of the challenge, someone was like, I mean, this would be great if it was all like in one place and I didn't have to go dig through my inbox and try to find it. I was like, oh, so you want a book? Okay, all right. Well, I can do that. And here we are.
And here we are. And here we are. Because the book came out actually last year, because it's a kind of fresh off the press book,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. And so I did a book launch on my birthday, which is December 28th. So a few days before the year was over.
Right.
And I did that because my birthday's so close to Christmas.
Yeah.
Usually people are out of town, people are doing whatever. And now with COVID, I wasn't going to have like a celebration in terms of having people there physically. And so I thought, well, let me do a book launch party and just invite people virtually. And I know a lot of folks do the Daniel fast at the top of the year. So it just fit really well with it together.
Yeah,
And the response has just been amazing during that short period of time. Just
I'm sure.
seeing people's testimonies, seeing books being sold in Italy, Germany,
Wow.
the United Kingdom. And so that part in Canada, that part's been amazing to just see how many people across the world are really just getting, just strengthening their faith through this experience. So.
Right. Right. It's been I was happy to find it myself. It's been pretty cool. And the more it passes around, the more the word kind of spreads and the more you see the effects, which is so awesome. I know one of the things that I noticed that you said that touched me was how you had not actually done the Daniel fast like a lot, right?
No, so the challenge that I was saying about that was 2017. So January
Wow.
2017, I'm a chef, so the food part wasn't really like a huge deal. Finding ways to be creative that people would be willing to try, because a lot of times people, when they have any kind of new eating habit or any kind of diet change or things like that, they get so bogged down in what they can't eat.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm like, oh, I can have this, I can have that. And it's like, okay, but if you think about it, there's way more foods you can have than you can't have.
Right.
And I think that vegan food, because essentially that's what it is for the most part, is a vegan diet. It gets a bad rap. And part of it, I think, is because there's, and nothing against if you're vegan. I like to give that disclaimer because eat what you want. But I think it gets a bad rap because there are all these like meat alternatives where like the Beyond Meat burger, or like where people are doing like cauliflower hot wings, and then you have the group of folks who are like, that's not meat and that's not a hot wing, and so they're just like, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
So when you really think about it, like all fruits, all vegetables, nuts, beans, whole grains, all of those are
All
vegan.
of that. Yeah.
You can have
Yeah.
all that on the Daniel fast. And so opening up people's minds to that side of it
Right.
was very important to me. But in terms of, yeah, I hadn't done the fast before writing the email challenges. And it was something that obviously transformed me because it showed me that food could be my ministry. It wasn't something, thank you. It wasn't something where, so at that time I was dealing with imposter syndrome, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with the concept, but basically where you don't feel qualified to do the thing you're doing. And sometimes it stems from maybe you didn't go to school for that thing. And so I didn't go to culinary school. And for me, it used to be like, oh, I can't tell anybody that. But honestly, nobody cares about that. As long as you can cook.
Right.
And so, but at that point, I wasn't delivered from that yet. And so doing the Daniel Fast Challenge, through writing the book, things like that, I was able to see people get saved from just my words and just from the food that I was able to not even cook for them, because I wasn't cooking for anybody. It was just providing them a guide.
Right.
And that was super powerful. And still is, since it's still happening.
And see, that's one of the things that I was immediately attracted to as well. Well, as far as our connection was discovering food as your ministry. I think people have this misconception that what your ministry is something, it's a box, it's kind of a closed box as to what they think it is. And so people will think, okay, how can food be a ministry, right? Your ministry is whatever gift it is that you have, or whatever, the skill, that talent, whatever God sees fit is what that is, right? What was it like kind of discovering food as your ministry, and how you kind of put the two together?
So that was also kind of a thing that I had to figure out, is because just like you said, I was thinking, I mean, food, like I'm not a brain surgeon. I'm not. And in that moment, I was like, oh, I'm not saving anybody's life. But when you think about it, it does. It's like we eat multiple times a day. We have to have food to survive. And when we look at rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, all of those things are tied to food. And what I was finding is that people, especially in Black and Brown communities, were not aware of ways to make food taste good that didn't involve it being smothered, covered, fried, all that stuff.
So
We're in
true.
the South, and so all of that's standard. And so people were seasoning their food with salt instead of actually seasoning with flavor. And
Mm.
that's something that I was learning that this is something I could help with. And so through that, and then also seeing how just how life changing it is, because when you're thinking about your gift and you're thinking about your talent, to you, it's not that big of a deal because it's second nature.
Right.
You're just,
Right.
oh yeah, I mean, like I'll make things like if you've seen the show Chopped, where they just give them a random assortment of ingredients and they have to make something out of it. That's pretty much a weeknight at my house. Like I don't always prepare everything ahead of time. I don't always decide what exactly is for dinner far in advance. It could be, all right, I have got potatoes, I got some chicken sausage and some kale. Okay, well, we're gonna make something out of that. And so for me, that's
I
easy.
know, right?
But for others, it's not.
Yeah.
So seeing the freedom that people have when they have some kind of direction, especially with the Daniel Fast 21 Day Food and Faith Journal, because it lays it out step by step each day. There's something intentional for them to do. They already have the food handled because I give recipes and grocery shopping lists. And so they're able to spend that time focusing on God instead of worrying about, can I eat that? Can I eat that? They still ask me that
Right.
all the time. And I'm
Yeah.
happy for that. But yeah, I think it just freed them up mentally during the fast, because fasting can already be draining. And
Right.
and I think also what I was finding is that those that do it, they either have, I'm finding a lot of people who have never fasted before, or they lost 30 pounds on the Daniel fast because they were eating fruit cups and brown rice and nothing else. And not that you
Wow.
can't lose weight. I mean, I lost weight on this fast too, but I don't think, I think it depends on your intentions, and if that's your focus the entire time, then you're not seeing God and you're not hearing from God at that point.
Right. That's, you know what? Let's make it clear what fasting is, right? Let's talk about, and we're not pastors or anything like that, but let's just kind of give a general definition or a general explanation of what fasting is. I know for me, fasting, I teach children's church. And the way I explain it to the kids is fasting is giving up a pleasure so you can get God's treasure. That's how I explain it to them. And that's basically what it is. What, especially as a chef, how do you kind of describe fasting? Spiritual fasting. Let's make that clear.
Right. Yeah. So I like that's cute. That will help the kids remember. I'm a teacher by training, so
Oh, okay.
anything helps the kids out. So for me, that was also another kind of thing to figure out. Okay, well, what does God think about fasting? What is his desire for us when it comes to food in general, even when we're not fasting? Because I think that can get really tricky. Food is something that can be an addiction, but it's also something that we have to have it every day. So it's like, it's socially acceptable for us as a society to overeat because it's just a societal thing. Whereas if somebody was on drugs or some kind of other addiction, it's a little bit more of a, what is the word I'm looking for? It's a little bit more of a, something that people see like, okay, we need to handle that, or we need to kind of make sure it's under control. There's more of a stigma, I guess is what I want to say.
Right.
So, and then I think like the devotional you all did in the Bible app.
Yes.
That one
enjoyed.
Because it really, and it's called Food is Not the Enemy, for those of you that don't know. And to me, that I read it as well. To me, it's very freeing because it's like, I don't believe that God doesn't want us to get happiness out of things that are here on earth. I don't think he minds us enjoying food. I love ice cream. I don't think he has a problem with me liking ice cream.
Of course.
But we got to be mindful of, is that our joy? There's a difference between happiness and joy.
That's good. That's good.
So if you're getting your joy from food, you're getting a joy from something that's not him, that is where I find that fasting can help out. And I know I kind of went around your answer, but to me, spiritual fasting is a outward sacrifice for an inward growth, or an inward betterment, or an inward deepening of your faith, to be able to hear from God without all of the physical clutter that we have,
Nice.
junk food, and then also the spiritual and mental clutter as well.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I last year when I did the Daniel fast, I actually kind of got a clearer understanding of fasting more towards what you just said, kind of clearing out the outward clutter to get an inward result. For me, it was understanding um getting past the physical in order to have something manifested from the spiritual. That's how I kind of saw it. And then, of course, there's the different fasts where you talk about there's your total fast, there's your partial fast, which is kind of what the Daniel fast is. And people do them throughout the year. Now, because your book is about the Daniel fast, what I appreciated a lot is that you had a day dedicated to people really understanding that you have to have a why. Why are you fasting? I think that was like day 10 or day 9 or something like that, where you literally ask the question, and there needs to be a reason why you're making this sacrifice, right? And I love that you provided the
Pages.
the information, the pages, so you can literally write what
Right.
your why is.
Yeah,
Right.
and I think that's so important because with anything, and I'm still looking for yes, day 10. Okay. So
Okay.
just to kind of give a sneak peek, with anything that
Yeah.
you're doing, you want to be mindful of what's your purpose behind it, what's your intention behind it. And so what she was saying is that each day you have the devotional. I try to keep them pretty short, and then you have a space to kind of write and think. And so the tagline for that is, when you remember your why, it makes everything else easier. So when you remember your focus, and this is with anything in life, when you remember why you're doing something. So when you think about your kids, when you think about your job, when you think about any kind of like nonprofit situation, anything like that, you have to remember what's at the core of it and what's your purpose behind it. And I chose to put that further into the fast about halfway through, because
it was.
Usually week 2, my husband says that's always the hardest week for him. Because you kind
It's
of
funny.
so, and you're like, all right, week 1, like, okay, I got my ideas, like, I'm not tired of this food yet, I'm good with my habits, first 7 days, and week 2, you're like, okay, I don't know, it's looking kind of spotty, I'm not sure. And so you do want to be mindful of your purpose and your why. So thinking of those things at the beginning of the book. So I do put a place where you set your intentions for the entire fast. And so that portion, it's just pretty simple. It just says, during the fast, I'm believing for things for myself and then things for others. And so with the book, you also get a digital copy of it. And so, for example,
Which I kind of love.
for example, the meal planning pages, I encourage people to print those out, or really any page from the book.
Super important.
And this one was in my desk, so it's been through some things. But for any of the pages that you feel like are going to be impactful, this one, like, we printed this out. I'm sorry, this is backwards because I'm on camera, but we printed this one out and it's on our coffee table. And so that way, during the fast, it's not something like, oh, let me go dig in my book. It's something, okay, we see it every day. When we see
Right.
it, my husband and I, we can talk about it. Same thing with those meal planning pages, printing those out, putting them on your fridge. If you have somebody in your family who you're doing the fast with, that's a great idea. Or even for yourself, because when you see it before you open the fridge, you're like, okay, I need to act right. These are the things I needed.
Yes.
I've already had a plan. Write the vision, make it plain. And so you're doing that in this as well.
Right. Yeah, those meal planning pages are savior. Like, because the question of what am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? What am I going to eat? Those are the questions that plague you down and distract you from what it is that you're really supposed to be focusing on. And so if you write the vision and make it plain and write out your meals, it's one less thing you're concerned about or thinking about or worried about. I love that you know what, I'm going to show you with the meal planning page, because the cool thing is that you have space for every single meal and a snack.
Yes, because you're gonna be hungry. Like, I'm not gonna be unrealistic and say, you're not gonna want more food. So basically,
Yeah.
there's one for each week, and
Right.
then it's got little acronyms: breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then snack. Because you're probably gonna be hungrier during the Daniel fast than you normally would be, or you might think that you're hungrier, and so you want to plan for that. You don't want to get to 3 o'clock and it's like, okay, I get hungry every day at 3 o'clock. Why would it be any different when I'm on the fast? Like, plan for these
Right.
kinds of things. And that's something I tell people even when you're not on the fast. Like, if you know you're a 3 o'clock snacker or you need something a little sweet at a certain time of day,
Right.
don't get caught slipping. Basically, like, make sure you have a plan
Yeah.
for that, and then there's less stress, there's less worry, you're less likely to make an unhealthy decision
Yeah.
because you already have it ready to go.
Right.
So I enjoyed those. Great.
Yeah, I love them. And the cool thing is with the Daniel Fast extras and with the actual digital copy, it's something you can use from year to year,
Right.
which
Yeah.
makes it very, very convenient and very, very useful. You
Yeah.
know?
So, and just for those who aren't sure what she's talking about, so each book comes with a digital copy of the book, and then there's also a bonus website. So if you already have
Yes.
your copy of the book, on the back there's a QR code, and the title of the website is listed throughout the book. So if to access it, you can use your smartphone, just because I know people don't feel like typing stuff out. Open your smartphone, open the camera, and then just put it on top of this, and then it'll pop open. The site will pop open.
Which
And
is so
so
cool.
on there, you have the digital copy of the journal, so printable. You have 3 weeks worth of meal plans, recipes, grocery shopping lists. There's a Pinterest board. There's other meal planning support for when you're off of the fast, because a lot of times people find, okay, you decided all my meals for 3 weeks and now I'm off and I don't know what I'm going to eat. And so I don't just leave you hanging. I have resources for you there as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I because my church just ended their fast on Sunday. I'm actually continuing myself just for personal. I like to, and this was something I wanted to get into anyway. I like, while I do it with my church, I like to do my own personal one separate, just for my personal
Yeah.
stuff, because fasting is a personal experience. It is something that's supposed to be between you and God. And you have your own things that you are longing and desiring for
Right.
from him and that you need from him. And while I spend those 3 weeks with my awesome ministry, Faithful Central, those 3 weeks are pretty much focused on ministry and those types of things. I usually take the time to do my own because I have some stuff. Like,
We all do. Yes.
we need to talk, Jesus.
Yeah.
How about that?
Exactly.
So the cool thing is the Pinterest board actually gives you access to a ton of other recipes, which will almost be like a maze. Like, you end up in this whole, like, this deep thing of looking for all these other recipes because you find this here and you find that there, which is,
Yeah.
that's what makes it such a cool resource. Such a cool resource. I wanted to ask you what your personal experience with fasting has been.
So for me, mine's mostly been the Daniel fast
Okay.
in terms of a spiritual fasting experience. And so we do that with my church as well, and also with my husband. And so being a chef on that side, it's a little, I don't want to say trickier, like it's a little easier in some ways, but then it's trickier because it's like, oh, well, you love all these foods and now you can't. But I think that it makes me be more intentional, more purposeful in the things that I am choosing to have. So, for example, while you're on the Daniel fast, you can have nut butters, so like peanut butter, almond butter, all that kind of stuff. Because nuts are from the earth, you can have that.
Right.
But I love peanut butter; like, it's one of my favorite foods. So during the fast, I do not have peanut butter because that's not a sacrifice to me.
Yeah.
And so things like that, having to tailor it to just be a little bit different. And I think it can get really legalistic when people, especially with the Daniel fast,
Oh
because
my gosh, yes.
there's multiple translations. Some of them say he didn't eat any pleasant tasting food. Other ones say he just had veggies and water. And, and I'm like, okay, no pleasant tasting food. I like fruits and vegetables. So am I not supposed to eat fruits and vegetables? Like,
Right.
is that the intention? And so I think that rather than focus on that, really focusing on things like seasoning. So that's kind of another hot topic
Mm,
for some folks. And I tell people, if you get to the point where you're trying to decide on a food, pray about it. If it's something that has a stronghold on you, then maybe you probably shouldn't have that thing. If it's something
yeah.
where you are like, but I mean, I need my tea, or I need my you can't have coffee, but I need this thing, then it's like, okay, well, maybe you need to kind of go in that direction and see what's going on with that. And so I think for me, it helps me to see how, once again, reaffirming that food's my ministry and that I'm able to help people on a level that isn't what I previously thought it was. Because of course I help people eat and feed their families and things like that.
Right.
But
Of course.
bringing that, yeah, bringing that spiritual connection, I never really thought like we're all supposed to bring souls to Christ. However, I wasn't thinking that would be in the form of talking about food and talking about how to plan out your meals.
Yeah.
Because in originally they don't really seem connected. Food and faith don't really seem connected.
Right.
Like just offhand.
Offhand.
You're like, let's not do anything. But when you think about it, and this is in the book too, you think about how you have to be intentional with both. So thinking about, okay, so if I'm going to try to strengthen my faith, especially with everything that's going on in the world now, if I'm going to try to be as close to God as I was previously, then I need to be consistent about what I'm doing. Same thing with your food. If you're trying to maintain your health, especially now, if you're watching this live during COVID, our health is more important than ever. You have to be consistent about it. At the same time, you have to give yourself grace, which is one thing I also tell people. And that's something that I am working on as well, because I have very high standards for myself. And then I have to think like, okay, I mean, and resting as well is another thing, because another thing I'm working on. And so those things have shown me that I can get, so fasting and doing the Daniel fast and doing the book launch and that kind of stuff shows me that I sometimes don't always put the fasting experience first for myself, because I'm so worried about making it such a good experience for other people.
Okay.
So I'm coming out of that. So
yeah, it's funny you mentioned that. This year I found it almost, I was having trouble with the Daniel fast, not the food portion necessarily, but getting as much out of it as I usually do, because I found myself focused on what I was doing it for. So for example, like I said, I work with kids. I also work with our high school ministry, and we were working really closely with them about the Daniel fast. And I had to do videos and all kinds of stuff with tips and stuff. And I found myself so focused on that and putting those things together during the Daniel fast that I got distracted from what I was trying to do personally for the fast, which is, I see what you mean when you say it's easy to kind of get distracted. And I like that you said that food, you initially don't see the correlation with food and faith. And then you do something like the devotion that you had that we did for the previous conversation. And it's like, hold up. First of all, in the very first chapter of Genesis, he says, I'm giving this food to you. Like in the very first chapter.
Like you got to eat, like this is not an option.
Yeah. So he presents that. And the whole reason we're in this sin mess is because of food. So, food was used as a tool, put it that way.
Yes. Yeah. And that's also kind of part of the cover design, is having this apple.
I noticed that.
But it doesn't actually say that it was an apple. That's something that, like, the forbidden fruit. And it's just something that I guess designers and things like that who wanted to kind of make visuals for it have just
artists
as an apple. But it's like, really, in this case, it's not forbidden because you can have apples on the Daniel fast.
How about that?
Yeah. So that's a very important part. I think that people, especially people who work in ministry, that's a very easy thing to do, to get caught up in the I'm working for the Lord, but
I know, right?
am I taking care of myself? Am I close to the Lord? Am I doing
Yes.
what I'm doing?
Right, right. So let's talk about coming off the fast. What that looks like. For 3 weeks you haven't been eating. Pretty much, I know for me, a big thing for me, I shifted my fast to, of course, the stuff that you can't eat, but I made this rule where if it didn't come out of the ground, it doesn't go in my body. So I don't do any chemically processed, like no chemical whatsoever at all. And so coming off for me looks a little different
Yeah.
because now I have to really, really be careful. Let's talk about coming off the fast, what that looks like.
Okay. So with any kind of dietary change or any kind of shift in eating, you want to make sure you have a slower transition. And so aside from fasting, I generally don't suggest that people go on extreme, and I wouldn't even call this extreme because really this is healthy food. So, but you want to make sure that your body's not going to be in a state of like, oh, what are we doing? Are we in shock? And so, making sure you continue to drink lots of water is key during the fast. You want to do that as well, and then slowly incorporate those foods back in. So if you're adding in meat back in, or
Okay.
seafood back in, maybe just do 1 meal a day with that, or 2 meals a day, depending upon how much
Okay.
of a shift that you feel with that. If you are doing things like sauces, bringing those back in, then put them on the side first, and then just kind of see how much you can tolerate of it, because you're going from not having that at all to having it more often. And then really consider if there's stuff you actually want to bring back. There's
Mm,
people who I talked to someone today from Louisiana, and she was saying that her and her church members, she just got her copy of the book, that they wanted to make it a lifestyle change. And so there's certain things they're going to just keep. Like, I know for us, we're going to increase our veggies. So we're going to continue to have half of our plate at dinner time and lunch if we can, veggies. And that's really what we
nice.
should be eating anyway, is half a plate of veggies, a quarter protein, quarter starch. But we don't always do that. So
Oh.
yeah, that's a good way to kind of naturally maintain your health, because really you're supposed to have between 5 to 7 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And so if you're doing that for your 3 meals, and then if you have a couple snacks in there, you'll be good to go. But consider what things you don't want to bring back. And then also consider, because when you come off the fast, you're like, oh, I know what I'm going to eat. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get this.
Right.
And think about, and I tell people to do this during the fast too, if you have a craving, think about why you want that food. So do you want it because it's available? Do you want it because you're bored? Are you eating because it's a certain time of day? Like for me, ice cream used to be my thing after work on Fridays. It would be like clockwork. I would leave my job, and that would go straight to Brewster's, which is a local ice cream spot here. And it wasn't even that I actually wanted it. It was basically I had conditioned myself that 5 o'clock or whatever time on Friday, this is my reward. Like this is what I have for making it through the week. And I've had to get really, really careful about, is this something that I want because it tastes good? Is this something that I want because of the comfort? Because that's another thing. Emotional eating is a very huge thing for people.
That's true.
And so really considering, do you actually want this food, or you're just having it because you can have it? So
That's super important. I mean, just the effects on you spiritually, if the effects on you physically, of just introducing that stuff. I actually did the master cleanse like 10, 15 years ago. When I first moved to LA as a challenge, someone challenged me to do it. And that is I think it's 10 to 40 days or something like that, where you drink nothing but some kind of lemon mixture. And the importance that was stressed about introducing those foods back into your system. The cool thing about the Daniel fast is that after you've kind of cleaned your system out, you want to be a little more cautious about what you put back in.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I feel like it is a little bit easier of a fast to do because you can actually eat. There's people who are like, oh, you can eat on this fast. Yes, it's one of those. But it's not like, it seems restrictive at first glance, but when you really think about it, and I keep going back to the book, but when you really think about it,
Oh,
all
yes.
these foods, like these are all things you can have. And like, and I know some people will take out starches, so they won't do potatoes or sweet potatoes, but I'm like, that's fine. But Daniel said he ate veggies, and I'm gonna eat that because it's vegetable. So, but if that's something you wanted to push yourself, like maybe as an extra challenge, I know some people will say, okay, well, these few days I'm just gonna do a water fast, or these few days I'm gonna cut out this extra group of food. That's totally fine, and I feel like that makes it personal, just like you said. It's not just you're following the same thing everybody else does. You're customizing it to yourself and really being intentional about what you are sacrificing. So, yeah, what you were saying about once you come off it, you want to make sure that you just are eating healthy because you just feel better.
You
don't
do.
feel tired. Once you get over that first week of all the sugar getting out of your system and the coffee and that kind of stuff, after that, you're like, oh, I feel amazing. And so definitely true.
And we're not just saying that either. Like it really is true because your system is like, oh, I'm lighter now. Oh,
right. This is what I'm supposed to be eating. Oh, okay. This is what this is like.
Right. And it will. And I think if done correctly and having that why and all of those things in mind, you will find that there are certain things that you won't eat anymore or you will eat less of. Right. Right.
Yeah. And I think that's another thing that's tricky about food is that we feel like there's certain foods we're like, oh, okay, yes, I love that food. And it seems like people think it has to be all or nothing. And it doesn't have to be like that. Like you can have everything in moderation is totally fine. Like if you like, I love ice cream. I don't eat it as often as I did previously, but that's because I was finding that there were certain things that would trigger a craving. And it wasn't actually that I was really craving it. It was just a certain time or a certain situation or something like that. And so for me, I don't keep it in the house. Because if I have to go get it or I have to do Uber Eats or something, I'm like, those fees, I don't know. And so, yeah. So thinking about how you don't have to just totally cut out everything that you used to have after you're off of the Daniel fast is very important because it's not that it doesn't have to be like all or nothing. Like we said, it could be a transition. Like maybe you only have it when you're at certain places. Like for example, like cake, maybe you only have it when there's like celebrations or something.
Right.
So it's like you still get to access it, and it's not that your body will obviously for that's a sweet. So your body will be fine if you don't have it as consistently. But it's less depriving basically for you mentally to feel like, okay, it's not on a naughty list of things I'm not supposed to ever eat. Right. And so that helps you to have a longer lasting change because part of the reason why people fall off diets is because it's so restrictive and it's so like you can't ever eat this food ever again, and that's not really something that for your morale or your psyche is something that's going to last long term. That's
what's most, again, it goes back for me, it just goes back to God specifically saying, I've given you all of these things to eat. So it's a gift. It's a gift. And I think once you understand that it's a gift, your appreciation for it will be a little different and it will affect how you handle the gift.
Right. And he gives us our own personal discernment to be able to decide how much of those foods, how often. And that's one of the beauties about the way that he loves us because he knows that, okay, you're going to make the right decision. And if you don't, it's okay. There's grace. Okay. And just ask for forgiveness. So
I love it. So where can we get the book?
Well, recently it was just added to Walmart, so that's an option.
I love it.
Yeah, so it's in Barnes and Noble. It's in Walmart. It's on Amazon. If you have Amazon Prime, you can get it in 2 to 3 days, depending upon where you're located. People are getting them in about that time frame. But you can go to www.danielfastjournal.com, and there's extra information. You can see some testimonials from folks and their experience and their reviews of how this book is just transforming their lives. So yes, so Walmart, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, and I need to check some other places in case it's popped up there too. So
That's so exciting. I have to, first of all, I have to congratulate you and it kind of lift you up by letting you know I was encouraged once I met you and discovered and heard your testimony about the book. You know, first of all, thank you for doing this podcast with me. But I was just impressed to kind of hear the testimony that led up to the book and to see how it is touching lives literally all over the world.
yes, yeah.
I'm sure that was kind of unexpected.
Yeah, I think that I knew people did the Daniel fast in other parts of the world, but I wasn't exactly sure of where. And then also thinking about the amount of people, because the book's only been out at this point about 6 weeks on. No, I'm sorry, 9 weeks. It's been out 9 weeks of, unofficially, and then like
That's
6 weeks officially. And we're almost at 400 copies sold.
Amazing.
Already. And so that was another thing I had to kind of get out of my head about, like, okay, like I definitely need to make sure I like, all right, this is all God, like shout out to God, but it's also like he gave me this gift, and balancing that, like, okay, I want to honor him, but at the same time I don't want to be boastful, which even being reflective about that, I'm not a boastful person. I mean, I'm a very humble person, and so like accepting the like congratulations and all the celebration, I'm like, thanks God, like I need to be in the moment and appreciate the gift, because that's something that I'm finding is that I brush past accomplishments and I've just kind of normalized them. And so I'm learning that is not what God wants for me. He wants the kingdom to be above and beyond everyone else, because if you're not flourishing in the kingdom, what are we doing? Like, we can't be a light to others, and we're broken, busted, and broke down. And so whenever I hesitate to share updates on like social media or with my email group or whatever, because I'm like, someone gonna take this the wrong way, someone gonna see it as bragging. He just tells me, like, girl, if you don't post that thing, like, brag on me, put it on me, and let people see what it's like to be a follower of him. And not that it's always going to be prosperous. That's not the point, but it's just that in this moment, this is something that's reaching folks. It's helping bring people closer to Christ, and that should be celebrated. Like we celebrate all these other things. This is something that definitely needs to be celebrated.
Exactly. Well, with that in mind, I celebrate you.
Thank you. And thank you for being willing to have me. And I definitely think our connection was totally God. Like as we were connecting the dots, of like, you do that. Okay. All right. Okay. Yes. We just need to, let's do this.
For sure. So if you're watching this right here on YouTube later or now, or wherever you're watching it, the website is right there. You can go to thedanielfastjournal.com and get the book. You can also go to Amazon and Walmart and Barnes and Nobles. This chick is everywhere. Hello, God is like hooking her up. So definitely check it out. Please know that you can do the Daniel fast at any point in the year. Don't constrict yourself to just the beginning of the year, because that's when your church is doing it. And I also want to remind people that Daniel did 2 fasts. One was 21 days and another was only 10 days. So you can kind of do it to however it fits to whatever God is calling you to do.
Right.
So in the meantime, thank you so much, Ashley. Hang out for a second. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so happy. So happy to be a part of this book journey.
Thank you for helping me spread the word and to get things out. And if you're listening and you need any help with doing the fast, definitely check out the book or just reach out to me. I'm Chef Ashley Shep on all social media platforms. Message me. It's me answering, not somebody else. And so I will be just like this and answer you back and give you help.
Thank you so much. Okay, you guys, so definitely check out her book. I'm going to put her website up here again, but it is also again on Amazon as well, Barnes & Nobles, Walmart, all that jazz. In the meantime, don't forget to check out my website, everythingporterfield.com. You want to definitely join the conversation by putting your email in so that you can get in on the next devotional for the next month and the next episode. I don't want you to miss out on that. In the meantime, be blessed. Stay cool. God bless. Bye-bye.